Welcome back to Christmas in July at the Fat Quarter Shop. We're on block 2 of Jelly Snowflake. We're going to make 8 blocks this week, and you need 4 jelly roll strips, and a link to the pattern is in the description box below, and I have picked 4 green jelly roll strips to use today. I've got my design board with my alphabetties. I'm going to set that aside. You will need a friction pin today, which is different than last week. And the first thing I'm going to do is line up my 4 jelly roll strips. And just line them up so that we can cut them. And like I showed you last week, I trimmed them down to 2.5 inches. That's totally optional. You don't have to. And now I'm going to cut everything down that we need for the block and put it on my design board. And now with our background fabric, we're going to cut 5 4.5 inch strips and 2 2.5 inch strips. So I'm using 2 of the half yard cuts so that I can cut 2 layers at one time. And again, we started with 2.5 yards background. We had just cut it up into half yard pieces so that we could starch. So I'm going to cut the strips and then subcut and put it on my design board. And now we're ready to assemble our block. For the quilt, you need 8 ice crystal blocks. And today I'm just going to show you how to make 1 block, and in 1 block you just need 4 flying geese. So I'm going to take 8 fabric A squares that match. So first I'm just going to pull the first 8, and then I'm going to draw a line on the wrong side of the fabric with a friction pin. And you're going to need 4 fabric D rectangles. And then we can set this aside. I'm going to go ahead and draw the line on the corner to corner on the wrong side. I'm using a friction pin since the ink will disappear with heat later. You can use any type of marking pen that you're comfortable with. But I'm going to draw the line on all 8 of them to start. So now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to pin 1 square, and I'm going to pin it twice, and we're going to stitch directly on the line. I'm going to use a foot that has an open toe, and we're just going to stitch directly on the line on 4 of these. And I do like to put a lot of pins when I'm doing flying geese since the fabrics do tend to move around. So let's go to the sewing machine. Now when you're sewing flying geese, you can either sew from this direction or this direction. I find that starting here is a lot easier and it's less likely to clam up on your machine. And now we're going to remove our pins and go back to the cutting table. So now we're going to trim a 1/4 inch away from your stitch line. And then we're going to press. What I like to do is first set your seam. Just put your iron straight on it. And you can see your friction pin has disappeared, the ink. And we're just going to press toward the green. And now we're going to bring back our design board and we're going to add the last triangle to the other side. And again, I'm going to pin. And we're going to go to our sewing machine and stitch directly on the line. And again, I'm going to start stitching on the inside and not the corner. And we're going to remove our pins and go back to the cutting table. Now we're going to do the same thing as we did before, trim a 1/4 inch away from your sewn line. And then we're going to set the seam, and you can put all 4 down flat at the same time and set the seam all at the same time to save time. Press to the outside. You're going to have 4 flying geese, and then you're going to start building your block. So bring back this design board, and we're going to place the flying geese toward the center, the green towards the center. So instead of this, you'll have this, just like that. We're going to add 1 fabric C to the center, 4 fabric E's in each, 1 fabric E in each corner. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch down this row and then use the Holt quick seam press press. And then we're going to stitch down this row and press with the seam roller. So let's go sew. We're going to sew these 3 seams on the left side first. And you're using a 1/4 inch foot. So on this, when we're assembling the block, you want to use a 1/4 inch foot because that is the seam allowance you're going to be using. And when we did our flying geese before, this foot would have been intrusive to being able to do that. So now what I'm going to do is use this quick press seam roller. Press the seams according to the pattern instead of getting up and going to the iron just to save some time. Now I will cut the little seam, I'll cut the little threads in between, and now we're going to add this row on the right side. And then here we're going to do the same thing. And now what I'm going to do is just sew the rows together. So I'm just going to put them right side together. The first thing I do is I pin in both intersections, and you can see that your seam is nested right there. We'll pin in that intersection. And the other one. Pin at the ends. And then stitch down that line. You can just add the next one, do the same exact thing, and with your fingers you can really feel the nesting on the seams. It'll just kind of lock right in place. And now we'll go give our block a nice press. So to press, I'm going to set the seam on the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to press to one side. I like to finger press first. And just put the edge of your iron right on that seam. And your block is almost done. Now what we're going to do is on each of your blocks, take it and add a fabric B rectangle to the very top. And then just pin it in place. I'm going to pin twice. You're going to sew down that seam. We'll pin it, and then we're going to go stitch it at the sewing machine. can press. So you're going to just set your final seam, press toward the background rectangle, and then I'm going to trim up the block slightly. This is totally optional. I like to trim my block so that I get any excess threads off so that I have fewer threads on the back of my quilt. And you're going to continue, and you're going to make 7 more blocks. I went ahead and made the remaining 7 blocks. Your 8 blocks should measure 8.5 by 12.5. And that is your part 2 of Jelly Snowflake. I hope you're enjoying this free quilt. The pattern is in the link below. And I would love for you to come back next Thursday for part 3 and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll see you next week.